Hey everybody, happy Saturday. Thank you for tuning in on this special edition of To the Point. I'm your host, Eric Mitchell. As you can see, we're not coming from our normal set today. We're taking an approach. What we're going to be discussing, as I talked about yesterday, was we're going to be talking about what's going on, not only with Vanessa Guillen out of Fort Hood, but something that the military and the media doesn't seem to want to cover unless it hits horrible standards. We're talking about assault. We're talking about sexual assault, sexual harassment that goes on within the ranks. I know this happens in jobs, but in the military, it's been happening for years. Just a few years ago on Facebook, there was a group called Facebook Marines United. Marines United was taking photos of our service members, our service women, and exposing them and sharing these photos in a Dropbox and Google Drive to everybody. There were tons of male Marines, Army. It was pretty much open to anybody male going on there and talking and doing, just saying horrible things about these ladies. What happened when this was exposed? Very little. It was shunned. The Marine Corps required training for like a day. But other than that, it was put on the back burner. Now, since April 22nd, 2020, at approximately between 11:30 a.m. and 12:30 p.m. on Fort Hood in Texas, just outside of Austin, a PFC or private, I don't know Army rank that well, but Army rank, a private PFC, Vanessa Guillen, went missing. This is very odd because normally when someone goes missing, like a weapon, you lock down a base and you make it a big deal. Yes, they could go AWOL. That does happen. Or if you're not familiar with the word AWOL, that means absent without leave. Now, there's no track history that she was planning to do this, and she had a very tight relationship with her mother. Her mother did say that she, and it is according to several of her peers and fellow soldiers, that she has reported that she was being sexual harassed up her chain of command, that she had named an unnamed sergeant had walked in on a shower with her. And this is Fort Hood, which when we start this, you will see Fort Hood has a small problem. A huge problem at that every person I talk to, Army, Navy, Marine Corps, you name it, has any recollection of what Fort Hood is, including male spouses, will tell you Fort Hood has issues. To the fact people go missing, they have sex rings, they have all sorts of shit happening. So we're going to start the show on this. We are going to open this up for Q&A, so please keep your comments in there. So we're going to be welcoming my two guests today coming up. So let's get started and let's get to the point. It would help if I got to the point. But anyways, let's get to the point. Back. So today's guest, and TMR's here too. So today's guest that we have on our show, I'm going to bring in TMR real fast. So TMR, you're just jumped in. You're getting thrown into the mix right away. So I got my good buddy, the Marine Rapper here. What's up, brother?
Yo, what's up? How you doing?
Real good. Getting ready to kick this off. Was going to intro our two awesome guests. You and I are co-hosting this because obviously we're dudes, so we'll give our Marine Corps opinion. But I mean, even you and I had a conversation. So what everybody out there, so understand how this show today happened. I went to my Instagram, was thanking TMR and all the members of Space Force for releasing our awesome theme song that came out. And I asked him, I said, man, what can we do to help get Vanessa Guillen's story out and also talk about all the horribleness that happens to our women's service women in the military, all branches. Yeah. And I know TMR and I had covered this actually a couple days ago in another conversation where I said, man, I was blown away when I said one of Vanessa's stories has been that a unnamed male sergeant walked in her on the shower. Well, first, one of our guests today, Lisa Bodenburg, who is a United States Marine, said, well, that shit happens all the time. And then TMR goes, oh yeah, I'm familiar with that. That did happen all the time. I'm like, yeah, okay, definitely need to talk about this. So yeah, what do you think about all this craziness?
I just posted something on Twitter just now. Let me fix this mic. I just posted something on Twitter just now talking about that we need to do a better job with everything, all issues, especially as veterans and military veterans and military professionals, and there's some active duty. We just need to do a better job. We tout our military service and say we're such superheroes and we're such a badass to everybody, and try to, flash our military service in front of like civilians and everybody else and say how dope we are. Okay, if we're really dope, let's get together and be the leaders on every issue, whether it's sexual harassment, sexual assault, racial equality, LGBTQ, IA plus, all of those issues. It should be a veteran or a military individual that's leading the charge. Like, no, let's do a search party around Fort Hood. Let's do what we got to do. Let's talk to people at bars. Let's talk to everybody. Let's do what we have to do to find Vanessa, because this is unacceptable. And if we are the superheroes that we claim to be, we really need to step up to the plate and really make it happen. And we may not be the right person to talk about it, but let's go find somebody else that is the right person to talk about it. But at the end of the day, we need to be leading the charge. And that's how I feel about that.
Awesome. I mean, I feel for you. So this is how that came to be, guys. This was TMR and I started chatting and said, what we do. So then he said, hold on, got an awesome Army veteran. So Jaimes is going to be joining us. And then you guys all obviously know our other guest. She was just on the show on Women Wednesday. She's a reoccurring guest, kind of like the guy next to me here, TMR. He's a reoccurring guest too. And no, stop judging me that I always have Marines as reoccurring guests or co-hosts. It just happens to be that way.
How it is.
It's just how it is. But just Marines, we're just weird. We're just weird that way. But I want to welcome our two guests to the show, Miss Jess Jaimes and Lisa Bodenburg. There you are. We're all here.
Thank you so much for having me, Eric.
So thank you guys for joining us today. Obviously, part of what we're talking about is Miss Vanessa Guillen, who is missing from Fort Hood. I think to kick this off, and we'll jump into what's going on. Obviously, Lisa and Jess, we want to hear from you. The thing that's most alarming to me is I had no idea Fort Hood was like, it's like 2020, but it's permanently been like 2020. It's just like a dumpster fire permanently. Like, they've had tons of missing soldiers just go missing from Fort Hood. They've had people murdered. They've busted just, I think this week, they announced a sex ring that they busted, which is crazy when we all think of all the other Army bases and all the Marine Corps bases and bases around the world that this doesn't go on. So first off, what do you guys think's going on with this Vanessa case? Why do you think the Army's being so quiet about it? I get AWOL and, I get everybody thinks we go UA first, but there was a lot of other reports coming out that she had reported incidents that have happened to her and had gone ignored. So Jess, I'll kick it off to you. Why do you think this is taking place?
I think this is taking place because Fort Hood has not taken the right steps to investigate previous missing cases or AWOL cases or homicides on Fort Hood or outside of Fort Hood. So I personally think that with everything that I've read, this looks like some organized crime, human sex trafficking, or a part of that prostitution ring. And that has been a part of a huge problem in Fort Hood. Prostitution rings, people being busted while they're active duty. So I feel like that could be correlated with Vanessa's missing case, I guess. So like she must have known something, or maybe she's a part of it, unfortunately. I'm just really appalled at how little Fort Hood has done to do any sort of justification to finding these missing soldiers. So I just feel so much hurt and compassion for all the families affected. Like, this isn't just a number. These are human beings. These are active duty Army soldiers that took the oath and wanted to serve their country, and they're being shot and killed on our own soil. Like, what is that?
That is crazy. So let's Lisa, what's your thoughts on this? Number one, you obviously serve in the Marine Corps. Jess is in the Army, so we're going to lean on her probably for a little bit more insider information on the Army, because, well, three of us in this lovely box are all jarheads, so we all live in our special Marine Corps world. But what are your thoughts on this, Lisa? I know when you and I have talked offline, you've talked about, well, it's probably not in the media because they might lean on the unauthorized absence or AWOL. But, I mean, where does it go when I just struggle with this because I know sexual assault and harassment is something that's rampant throughout the military. It's been exposed everywhere. So why do you think everyone's kind of sat on this story and not done very much about it?
I don't know that answer, and I think that I feel that the authorities don't know that answer either. I think that the reason it's not in mainstream media is because there isn't a big story to them yet. Usually, mainstream media goes for, they go for the throat. They go for either someone saved a puppy, or 9 times out of 10, if it's not something good and nice and happy, it's something terrible, because that's unfortunately the way that humans are. We are attracted to the negative and to the sad issues in life. So right now, a woman's missing, but there's so many people missing in America, including children, that this story to mainstream media isn't special. To us, it's special because this is one of our own. So this is huge to us. To this woman's mother, this is special because that's her daughter, her family member, things like that. But to national media, unfortunately, until it becomes evident that she's dead, or that there's this ring exposed or some sort of high crime involved, no one's going to pick up on it, and no one's going to put this in the front lines, so to speak, of the media. And that's sad, because that really just goes to speak on what our mainstream media is feeding us, and us as human beings, and what we're attracted to. So that's my speculation. This is all speculation of why this hasn't been picked up by mainstream media yet. Also, the investigation doesn't seem to be complete. It seems to just almost now just be coming out. She's been missing for quite some time. And the problem is that her chain of command lied, and they covered this up. So the first, I believe the first 24 hours are the most critical. 24 to 48 hours are the most critical missing person. That's been covered up and gone. You can never get that back. So the information or the evidence that we could have had in that time frame is now forever missing, and it's on the fault of her direct chain of command. In no circumstances would you ever lie in formation and say that a soldier or a Marine is accounted for when they are not. And that person, if they are not held to the highest standard and they are not held accountable, that is on their superior, all the way up the chain of command. And as far as I've seen on this topic and on this specific chain of command, they're failing her from a large level all the way down to the individual soldier. And it's sad.
Yeah, that's true. So real fast, I do want to fill in everybody on some numbers I found out by doing some research on this. So the DOD, in their annual report on sex assault in the military, estimated that there were 20,000, almost 21,000 incidents of unwanted sexual contact in the year ending 2018. That's based on a survey of men and women across the Army, Navy, Air Force, and Marines. That was an increase of 38% from a survey done in 2016. So they're claiming that, that's a double. So if you think about 2020, that number doubles every year. That's some pretty crazy stuff. And according to Stars and Stripes, the rates of sexual assaults and harassment reports in the military have increased since last year. That's coming from the Pentagon, is even warning that. So this is, I think, what strikes me as a parent, as a Marine, as a vet. This mother, this family, just like all of our parents or loved ones, when we enlisted, figured we're going to be safe when we're on our home turf. Now, those of you who have served in combat, you guys obviously knew when you went to the sandbox, it's a whole different ball of wax. That's where we are unsafe, because it's not our home turf. But Camp Pendleton, Camp Lejeune, any base, but I always will list Marine Corps bases. Any one of our bases is supposed to be safe, right? We could go on there. We lock up our weapons. We're safe. We don't have to be armed except for the MPs. We have our own firefighters. We have base medical. We're safe, but we're not. I mean, at least if you're female, it appears that you're not always safe because there's predators lurking. Now, T-Mar, you and I had a conversation the other day, and you told me, because obviously I'll be the elephant in the room. I was in the infantry. I served with all dudes. That was what we did. So I speak as more of the interviewer here, not any expertise in this matter at all. So TMR, you served in a co-ed or a mixed unit, and you said, if you don't mind sharing, you shared with me what you told the women in your unit to do with their windows and doors at night.
Yeah.
Go ahead, share.
Yeah, well, I didn't do that, but other women would tell other women to lock their doors and lock their windows. It's because there's just so much temptation, and because of the proximity of younger females and just females amongst men who are, they're just their hormones are going crazy and stuff like that. It's a way to protect themselves from them and also save their male counterparts, when there's like alcohol or other circumstances involved. So a lot of times other females would set up like precautionary measures to make sure that the temptation or any opportunity of any type of sexual harassment or sexual aggression could happen at all. And it's not to say everybody who is male is like aiming for that, but it just makes it to where it just doesn't happen at all, or there was no opportunity. And also the females would also have a buddy. But I know in my unit, because it was a co-ed unit, we would be responsible for that new female or whoever it was to make sure that they were taken care of and that they had a buddy, walking back and forth to chow or walking back and forth to the head, especially overseas. There was trailers for male and female for restrooms and things like that overseas. And we would make sure that we escorted those individuals back and forth to the head or to their barracks specifically, because it was very rare for females to be overseas. So a lot of males would prey on those younger military members. So that's why, coming from that background, I feel very strongly about this issue, even though, it doesn't affect me directly because I'm a male. I feel like it's unacceptable for any military member to not look after their sister in arms. We say the brotherhood, but what about the sisterhood? What about looking after our sisters in arms? What about taking care of them? Because it's not just, one race, one sex, it's all of us. We are all a unit. So we all need to do a better job as leaders and take what we learned from the military, like looking after our fellow sisters, and do it now out there in the civilian sector, as well as the people who are serving now. And I feel like those leaders need to take a more proactive charge on this whole situation with Vanessa.
I love that. So this will we'll bring it back around. So Lisa, let me ask you this. When you enlisted in the Marine Corps, did you think you're going to have to deal with this as a woman joining the great ranks of the United States Marine Corps? Were you going, oh my God, I'm going to go and I'm going to need TMR or some other Marine to escort me as I am wearing a uniform of a United States Marine, and nowhere in there does it say I have to worry about being preyed upon by my own people, our own kind? I mean, all the gloriness of all of our branches. I mean, we have Army and Marine represented here. Both of our branches were very prideful. I mean, not to say the other branches aren't, but ours, okay, we talk the most about our branches, besides the SEALs and the Navy. Did you think, Lisa, when you joined, that this is something that you're going to have to deal with?
No, absolutely not. But my family did. I'll never forget that. So my mother, I graduated high school early, and my mother would not sign the paperwork for me to join the Marine Corps. I had to then go off to college and get a job and live normal life until I turned 18. Then I finished my semester and I signed myself to go into the military. She would not allow me to go in because she said she wasn't going to sign her daughter up to go to war. However, that was not her only concern. That was addressed to me by her, by my brothers, by other individuals that were talking to me about my decision as a young 18-year-old, that rape was one of the biggest things that they were in fear of, that it had become a problem in the military. This is back in 2005, 2006, and that they feared for me. Now, from a very young age as a Marine, you become a poolee first. And that a poolee is basically an individual who goes to the recruiter who wants to then become a Marine. So I started to build this brotherhood with the Marines at the recruiting station. And in no way, shape, or form did I feel that I would ever have to deal with anything like that. Now, did that picture get changed as I went through the ranks and as I experienced and grew up in the Marine Corps? Yes, it did. But I also want to paint the picture for everyone that's listening that this is there are two separate things happening. Now, let me start by saying, I don't care if you're a man or woman. If you say no, no means no. And you could be in the act of it and say no and stop, and the other person needs to stop. However, no one ever deserves unwanted contact. Sexual assault is not the victim's is not the victim's fault. I'm not saying that at all. But what I do want to bring to light the culture that people don't understand. Now we understand that, but picture a group of individuals, and let's say you can talk about the when you're at war or when you're not. Let's say you're Oconus and you've been away from your spouse, away from other people for 6, 7, 8 months. Natural instincts occur. That's human condition. I understand that. Does that mean that that gives you the right to act on them or to act inappropriately on them? No. But under those circumstances, both men and women engage in sexual activity. Now, if that is the case, which is against the UCMJ to begin with, it's essentially illegal. But if that's the case, when you have a woman that's in a command and she's doing those things and she's engaging in sexual activity, now the next woman who checks in, maybe those guys are thinking, oh, well, she's going to do the same. Yeah. So we've got a precedence here. Yeah. So there's that's twofold, and that can happen both at Oconus and Conus. Now, right now, why I believe the rates are so high is because we're not at war. So everyone's sitting idle. They're preparing for this war that they don't know that it exists, or they may not ever see, or they may not get deployed. So there's human factors that are involved right now. It doesn't make it right, and I'm not saying that, but I do want to paint the picture for those individuals who are not in the military.
That makes sense. And Jess, same question to you. Joining the Army, obviously, let's just paint the picture here, and I'm always the one to call it like I see it. I've said all along, Vanessa's been ignored because if she was, and I hate saying this because Lisa, you're going to be exactly what I referenced. But if she was a blonde girl, you always see the blonde girls always are the blonde white girls or a white girl. They always go looking for them. I'm sorry, that's just how it is. I can show you CNN, Headline News, Fox. All of them, if you go missing in this country, I swear to God, if you are blonde and white, you're safe. Somebody will be looking for you. They will do round the clock. Nancy Grace will scream at her TV for you. But Vanessa Guillen is a 20-year-old Latino woman in Texas on a base that, hold on, I have more quotes for you guys in case you want them before we jump to Jess for your answer. Here's from a Fort Hood soldier. Fort Hood is the worst place you could ever be stationed. The reason why Fort Hood has has a very high suicide rate, and people wonder how many people are going to discuss that, and if the military will actually research how many suicides are related to harassment and other things, and they have a record high number of disappearances. These are folks who have served there, who are being interviewed by the New York Times and by other journalists. So, I mean, there's a deep concern. I know it goes on and all, but this seems crazy, whatever's going on here. But Jess, when you joined the Army, did you think you were going to have to deal? Same question I posed to Lisa, I'll pose to you. Did you think you were going to have to deal with all of this?
Not at all. Especially as like an immigrant and someone knowing that I would go into a predominantly white, sector. I thought when I put that uniform on that I could join the brotherhood. I could be a part of something bigger, that these guys would have my back, because I'm willing to step up to the plate as a woman to, show that I can do the same things that they can do, if not maybe better. And, if we're supposed to deploy, you have my back, I've got yours. Like that also applies here. So when I was a part of a really small platoon, we became like family. And so you take care of your own, like you're with them more than you want to be. And when I enlisted, I was more worried about being strong enough, because I had to gain weight to join the Army. So I thought, okay, well, I got to knock out these push-ups. I got to make sure that I can keep up. In no way did I ever think that really attractive green uniform was going to lure superiors and subordinates. I never would have thought that. I thought, hey, especially Army, like, hey, we're here to fuck shit up. Let's go deploy. Like, let's go get the job done. I never thought that because of my looks, I would be degraded or devalued or preyed upon. It definitely was very eye-opening.
I mean,
and then with the like sexual harassment and everything coming up now, I think it's like the culture is like we're bored. We're not deploying, we're not training a lot. But I mean, if you don't keep your troops busy, like they're gonna get into stuff. And I mean, drinking in the barracks is one thing, but having to like warn your other female friends to close their windows and make sure that they're locked. I mean, yes, definitely have some like natural security measures in place just as a human being, but also like it's disgusting that we prey upon our own people. Like the army at one point was like one team, one fight, or army of one. And I was like, yeah, like I can't wait to be a part of that. And it wasn't really that welcoming at first, but there were definitely some amazing men and women who mentored me, who took me in the first day I stepped into my unit, and they were like, hey, I'm just looking out for you. You're a really cute young little girl. Like I also joined at 17, so I needed my parents to sign off on me, but they were like, hey, avoid the guys that have married bands. Like they're going to flirt with you whether they have a wedding ring on or not. They also have kids. They just want to mess around, and if you get caught, you're going to get in trouble, not them. And also, yeah, have a buddy, walk around, like go to the chow hall with your female battle buddy, do laundry together. My first month in my unit, I was attacked in the laundry room doing laundry in my barracks room by another soldier. And I was like, this is ridiculous. I was one of 3 female in the entire barracks building. So I was definitely preyed upon. I have some paranoia because of that, but that should not be the case. It should be like, hey, you're the new chick. Like, let's go out, let's get some beers. Let's get dinner. Like, what unit are you in? Like camaraderie, like, friendship, but it's never like that. I feel like male service members can look at females as just, an object or just someone to have fun with. And, that's what they're really here to support is, that.
So TMR, what the hell can we do? I mean, that story right there and Lisa's story, I'm glad I'm not in right now because I'd be whooping somebody's ass. Let's just say that, this kind of behavior, and I know it, I mean, I'm not naive. I know the shit goes on. And I know when we all get bored, trust me, I was a 90s Marine out of here. I could tell you we had a lot of idle time because we were not fighting anybody. The towers were still standing in New York and everything was pretty in the mid 90s. We had come from the Gulf War and we were just sitting around. And if we did anything, we threw tomahawks at Saddam Hussein when he was not playing in the no-fly zone. That's called what we did. That was peacetime, right? Now we're returning to that. And okay, now I'm going to sound like a parent.
Yeah.
I get it when you sit at home and you're bored. Like I tell my 13-year-old. Yeah. But being bored doesn't excuse going and assaulting a fellow service member who's your brother. I'm gonna call everybody a brother here.
Yeah.
Your fellow, service member. That doesn't give you a freak. I don't care how bored you are. There's Nintendo. There's a million other things in the world that your ass could be doing other than, I mean, you could go listen to music, go for a run, go work out. I don't give a crap. But if you're like, you know what, I'm bored today, I'm going to go prey upon somebody right now. I mean, how do we stop this behavior? I mean, from a leadership perspective, now all of us were enlisted. Yeah. So that makes it, we're going to have a real conversation then because we're not going to sugarcoat this with officer talk. But I mean, how would you suggest we prevent this in our ranks, speaking to our male comrades out there?
I think that we could definitely prevent it by better leadership. And when I say leadership, I mean small unit leadership, like coming from the NCOs, not necessarily the officers. The officers, they make the policies and things like that for us to follow. But I feel like the small unit leadership, the sergeant, corporal on down, and even the lance corporal or private or specialist, depending on if you're in the Army and things like that. Like, I feel like we need to police ourselves. In the Marine Corps, they would always tell Lisa can probably echo this: police yourselves, police yourselves, police yourselves. And we also have to think that, like, just because we're in charge of millions of dollars of equipment doesn't mean that we can even handle ourselves, who is priceless. So a lot of times us Marines in small units, we'd be like, hey, look after your buddy. Hey, there's a new female about to join our unit. Hey, listen, keep your hands off. That's our sister, yada, yada, yada. You guys need to treat her with respect, just like any other Marine. And that's something that needs to happen, is policing ourselves a lot stricter, and then also being better leaders and setting the example for other individuals. Because listen, a lot of people need to understand out there that a lot of these guys and gals who are joining the military, they're 17, 18, 19. This is their first experience at life. I know it was the first experience that some of the, my white counterparts even met somebody of color. They're just like, I've never seen a Black person before. I've never seen a Latino before. I've never seen a female before. Some of them have been, seen females from a distance, but not like interacting with them like that, or they may not have gotten that attention. I know in high school, I didn't receive a lot of attention from females because I was just like a smaller dude. So imagine that's like a cocktail for disaster. Like, you've never been around females in this capacity. You feel like that individual likes you for some real reason, when it's not really that. It's just the structure, and they're just trying to be nice to you because of your rank or whatever, or just trying to have that brotherhood. And then somebody could have in their mind that, oh, this young private likes me, and feels like they can take liberties upon that young private or that young service member, which isn't true. There needs to be a lot more education and teaching and just how we learn these cultural things before we go overseas. It needs to be a cultural thing. Like, hey, listen, I understand you're 18 and your hormones are going, but this is a sister at arms, and we do not, dabble in messing with them after hours or when we're drunk or whatever. We take care of them. We protect them from outside predators. We are not the predators. So I just feel like there needs to be education, further education. I know that we have the SHARP and sexual harassment classes and things like that, but we need to put these things into action. We can sit in front of a PowerPoint and be like, okay, yeah, we got it, check in the box, but we shouldn't check in the box. We should really practice this, and we should also be checking at every level. Be like, hey, you guys still got it? You guys understand? Is this young private still protected? We need to do checkups, and just how we check our vehicles and our weapons, we need to do checkups on our personnel as well.
So we do have a question that came in. A great response, by the way, TMR. I totally love that. We have somebody asking about underage drinking. So most of us, we all know. I'll raise my hand and say I know I was drinking when I was under 21. Look, all four of us are like, yep. So underage drinking. God, there's so many stories, and we're not here to tell barrack stories, but I know we all have our stories of our fellow, our brothers and sisters overindulging. And underage drinking is very big in the military. We all do it. I mean, if we're going to die for our country, we can drink for our country. We're pretty good at it. Do we think that adds to this problem? Do we think this adds to the harassment? Besides being bored, we add drinking to it, and we already know how dumb you become even without adding the military to it. We know how dumb people are when they drink, right? They just act like idiots. So do we think this adds to that problem? And should there be something done about it? I mean, anybody want to go with that first?
And Eric.
Go ahead.
So I don't know the numbers. And maybe I should. Maybe I would be better educated and better spoken if I knew the numbers and I knew the statistics. Does drinking add to poor decisions? Yes. And I don't care what age you are. Drinking adds to poor decisions. We all know the songs. We've all been there. We've all done stupid things when we've had too much to drink. But ultimately, I don't think that is one of the main factors. I believe that it's a cultural issue, and it stems from leadership. We have to remember that it is only very recent that there was an act of Congress that allowed females on the front lines. Now, we don't have front lines anymore, so I don't really like using that term. I use it because it can relate to the public. People understand what I mean by front lines. However, we're talking about infantry positions. We're talking about boots on the ground, one of the first guys out on the field. It just happened. When I joined, I walked into the recruiter station and I said, sign me up. I want to be Fort Recon. And they laughed at me. I didn't understand why. They had to literally sit me down and teach me why, because it would literally have taken an act of Congress for me to be allowed to do the job that I originally wanted to do. I was so mad that I left the recruiter station. Obviously, I went back and I found the most combative position that I could have at that time. But this is just recent. We're talking, what was it, maybe between 3 and 5 years ago that act of Congress happened. So now we've been working on a mindset shift within this brotherhood, within this tight-knit culture, within this culture where you make it exclusive. So these individuals are thinking like, oh, women can't do this because I can do it. And it makes you superior. It makes you feel superior. But that could be with anything. If you have a tight-knit group of individuals and only a select individuals are allowed in that group because of whatever reason, that breeds superiority and pride in that group. So for centuries, we're talking about only the strongest, best, most elite men were allowed in these specific positions. Now they're going to open it up to women. Of course, there's going to be growing pains, and they're going to feel almost demasculated. That takes away from your manhood in a sense, if you allow that thought process to continue. And I understand that, but we've gone so far trying to take away from this and to try to prove ourselves that, I have stories for days of how I continually tried to prove myself. To this day, I have a 300 PFT, and I've never had anything but a 300 PFT. For those of you who don't know what that is a perfect physical fitness score. There's not many men and women who can say that they're in the 300 club. And I've always felt that way because I always knew that I had to prove myself beyond what the men had to prove in order to just be looked at as equal.
Yeah.
So there's a cultural change that we're still battling. We've just now opened up the front lines to women to be able to do the job that men were traditionally able to do. And if you ask me, I don't care what's between your legs, because if you put me up against a test of half the other men out there, whether you're in the military or not, I can run faster, jump higher, and carry that down Marine further. So put me to the test. It doesn't matter what's between your legs as long as the standard is the standard. So it's a cultural change that we're fighting. And I'm sure you can answer this more than I can, because you were in the infantry as a female, and I was not.
Yeah. No, I like Lisa, you are spot on. I think it's definitely, this is a cultural problem, like just overindulging in things. You're young. A lot of people who do enlist are like 17 to 19, and it's like college for them. And it's, that college culture actually came from military culture. And so we're just over drinking. We're having sex consensually or not. We're partying hard. We're smoking, just living fast, but not trying to live up to those repercussions. And so like, if you neglect your health and you continue these habits, that would lead to, depression, anxiety, which does end up may or may not lead to suicide, which is a huge problem at Fort Hood and was a huge problem at Fort Riley. So like, I understand all the things that they try to implement and like build on post and free activities for soldiers to do so that they wouldn't blow their brains out in their barracks room. But also I do want to say that as soon as we did start putting in or like introducing women into these roles, and like, okay, so I also enlisted in as a 74 Delta, so chemical. I knew I wasn't able to get a combative job, or it wasn't allowed yet. So I was like, okay, let me do a quick little job. And then as soon as it's open, let me get on that. So then I ended up joining a striker recon team. And yes, men are can be really, really demasculated and feel like overpowered and just like, I guess like fragile male syndrome or something like that, but they definitely feel a certain type of way when they see an 18-year-old Latina doing their job, if not better. And so there's going to be some retaliation, whether it's harassing me sexually or not. It's just berating me. It's just anything to make me feel like I'm less than or like less than them and that I don't deserve that place to be there. So it's like they try to tear you down with, interrogating you and telling you that anything that you've ever accomplished is because you got on your knees or because you're pretty or anything like that. So just like Lisa, I had to bust my ass on paper so no one could ever say, oh, you got on your knees for that promotion, or, oh, you just batted your eyes and you got it like that. No, sir. No, sir. No one knew my family, where I came from when I joined the military. And I love that because I didn't have mommy and daddy to back up my fights for me. I'm like, I'm going to make a name of myself, and I'm also going to be a part of history. And I want to, be one of those badass women that prove the men wrong. Like, how can you tear me down when I'm just trying to, join and be a part of the fight? They always say like, oh, you can't keep up, or, oh, do I need to carry your bag for you, your ruck? Like, nah, dude, I got it. And I got the 249. So shut the fuck up. So yes, I've had to really, really make my presence known and my accomplishments known, that I never, not once, asked or had special favors because, I wanted to do it the right way. So no one could ever say shit when I get promoted or when I'm getting an award. It's like, oh, no. Jess did it her way, and she fucking worked her ass off. I was the youngest private to be a part of the striker recon team, and I was so proud. But then, learning how my male counterparts kind of felt about me at the moment. And as soon as, we started getting to know each other and just really building that friendship, that bond, they finally accepted me. So it took a minute for me to even be accepted in my own platoon. But I don't know. I do think that has to change. We have to be more forthcoming, because at the end of the day, yes, we might be in peacetime, but the military exists to win wars. So if you join the military to, have some power, control, or for the wrong reasons, if you just join for the wrong reasons and you're not helping the fight or the mission to like continue forward, I think a lot of people do need to get out. They're predators, or they're just there for a paycheck. But I think that's a conversation we might not be ready to have yet.
I think you bring that up. Even having this conversation is uncomfortable for a lot of people. It's not something that's done. Mainstream media won't cover it. I do want to say one thing. Famously, during his confirmation hearing to become Secretary of Defense, General Mattis was asked, how do you feel about women serving on the front lines? And Lisa, sorry, I wanted to interrupt you when you were doing this earlier, but I wanted to let you finish your stuff. And Elizabeth Warren asked this question to General Mattis, goes, well, how do you feel about men and women serving on there? And what does it matter with what they do? And General Mattis goes, I only care about one thing. She's like, what's that? Can they do this? If they could do this, that's all that matter. I don't care who's on the front line. He's like, in the Marine Corps, every Marine is a rifleman. I expect everybody who serves to feel the same way. If you join a branch of the military, we're not here for all of the politicking. We're here for, let's just face it, killing and protecting our country. Marines aren't here to look pretty. The Army's not here to do a pretty job. Our Air Force, they're not here to do a pretty, maybe the Coast Guard, but everybody else, we're not here to do something pretty.
Yeah.
This isn't pretty. War is not a pretty thing. It's not something that I know movies make war look attractive and Call of Duty and those things. War is not. And what we're talking about is the stuff behind the curtain that TV doesn't talk about. And we don't have enough of our servicewomen coming forward and talking about this. So we have cases like Vanessa Guillen going on in our country and going on bases. But let me just ask, and I've been privately text a couple people, producers, have asked, here, I'll ask this question. How many women do you think, ladies who are sitting right here on this show, how many women do you know that served, do you think were either sexually assaulted or sexually harassed while they were in? Would you say it's a very high percentage, like 70% or higher, or the number's lower?
All of them.
Yeah, I know a lot. I have not met one woman who has not shared a story with me because of my previous background or, the things I'm passionate about talking. I get a lot of messages, and that's just disgusting in itself. Lisa, thank you for sharing that too. But I think what's really burning in my mind is that they're still trying to recruit right now. And, I think they're trying to shut down Fort Hood base, but also they find it, the family, the community. It is actually big in the Hispanic news. They're trying, but, that's kind of limited because if you're a white household, you might not have Latino news channels, but they're trying to make it a big deal because, you should be able to enlist and be safe and, be protected on your own turf. And so they just see it as a big slap in the face that the Army continues to try to recruit. I don't think that should be the focus right now.
I'm still coming back from Lisa's response of all of them. That both of you going with that is, it's why we're doing this today. So yeah. TMR, what's your thoughts on hearing that? I guess I'm the only one stunned as the infantry guy. I'm like, holy crap. I guess I was well behaved, but when I was younger, when I was like, I go into the Corps, I was 18. I was scared of my own shadow. I liked I just never dated in the ranks. I never.
Oh, wait, can we bring it back to Lisa's really good point? How she said that we
can do whatever we want.
That, if a female sees another female dating within her company or, unit or platoon, yeah, that's fraternization. You're not necessarily allowed to date within your own sector. So that's a big thing in itself. So it's like, okay, what is consensual? What can we do? but we're tiptoeing on this line. And I mean, I know I'm definitely not innocent. I'm protected by DD 214, but I definitely thought officers were super cute. So, that is a problem in itself, just tiptoeing that boundary where we're not supposed to and making it professional. So I do understand that I may have messed up on my part with that, but like I said, they were officers, they couldn't promote me. So, but
I think that's a different line, right? I mean, obviously there is sexual attraction amongst people, and that's not what this is about. I mean, you obviously can go on a date and enjoy the date, and that's different to being sexually assaulted in your workplace, right?
Yeah.
I mean, in a corporate America, I remember when I went into corporate America and I was thinking about how little, like, I remember in Boot, they give you the sexual harassment 1s and 2s. And when I was in Okinawa when it happened, I'm sure the Marines on this probably have heard of this lore. There was 3 Marines and 2 corpsmen who raped a 12-year-old Okinawan national in 1996, 97. Now I'm aging myself. I was in Oki when this happened. They locked us on our bases for 14 days. We couldn't go anywhere. And literally the commandant did this live feed before live feeds were done. And he chewed and it was freaking Krulak. So the dude's like a war hero, badass from Vietnam. And he ripped us an ass from up to down to sideways. So the fact that that took place, and it still takes place. There was another rape recently in Okinawa. I mean, the Okinawans hate the Marine Corps now because of the behavior. Now, that is an outsider happening. We're talking about inside our own ranks, our own folks who say the same oath as we do, go through the same rigmarole. You don't have different tests. Lisa, you don't. You run, I can't speak for the Army for their PFT, but the Marine Corps PFT is the Marine Corps PFT. It's not like it's not like G.I. Jane where they're like, oh, here's a stool to jump on the pull-up bar, or here's a special pad to do your sit-ups. No, I mean, so everybody knows what a 300 PFT is. That's a 3-mile run in under 18, right, Lisa? Nod your head if I'm right. Am I right? Is it under 18? Wrong?
16, 14?
There are differences in the Marine Corps PFT between men and women.
Damn.
Yes.
How bad? How bad am I off?
A male PFT is 18 minutes. A woman is 21. Male pull-up. It's now pull-ups across the board. You have flex arm hang for women, but now it's pull-ups for women, and it varies by age group. I have to do 12, and some men have to do between 18 and 22 for 100 points, and then everyone has to do 100 crunches in under 2 minutes.
But still, I challenge anybody who's not currently a Marine and is male or to go do even the female standards. I'd love for you to videotape and do a better score than what Lisa does. I'll challenge you. I'll actually give you a $100 Amazon gift certificate if you can prove that you can do that. I guarantee you can. Just so you know. TMR, we can't hear you. It looks like you're just mouthing words to us.
Oh,
there you go.
I have myself on mute because I didn't want you guys to hear like any rustling of my leather jacket or anything. But yeah, I was just mouthing words. That's funny, and everybody's just like,
I was just like, what is he saying? Because I just see you go.
No, I would actually believe that like most people wouldn't be able to beat Lisa. Yeah, not at all. Not at all.
Badass.
I got a 19-minute as a male, but that was the closest I've ever gotten. But it's really hard to get a 300. So Lisa like is at the top of the top.
Yeah, like you qualify for like all the physical schools that you want to go to if you were Army. So like I think at one point I had to like brush mine down to like 16 or 14 minutes for airborne, and that just felt like a great feeling. And you're one of the first few women to finish, and you're just like, hell yeah, I did that.
I love it. No, I absolutely love it, and I love that as a junior Marine when I was fighting for I guess my reputation at the time. One of the best feelings was going out for the PFT and me finishing before all the guys. And, it was just either it caused them to have a different level of respect for me, or it just caused them to hate me more. So either way. But one thing I do want to mention, I feel like we're hating on the guys right now. And it isn't that way. It doesn't it's not always that way. Yeah. We're talking about an extremely small percentage of individuals. And there are going to be bad apples that make it through the cracks, no matter what profession you're talking about. Look at our current circumstances with the police. That's a perfect example. Police are supposed to protect and defend and uphold and be above the law because they're supposed to be upholding the law. So they should never break the law themselves. And look at what we're dealing with them. There's still bad people that are going to become police officers. That doesn't mean that all of police officers are bad. Same with the military. We are supposed to be these, especially Marines, we're supposed to be able to cover our tattoos and put on a suit and stand up tall and be the most upstanding citizen that there is. But at this drop of a hat, go kill people with your bare hands if you need to protect this country. And you know what? The vast majority of us do. We are. There are individuals who are, I can't have more respect for people than I have for these men and women, for these Marines and who they are. But there are still people who are bad people who are, or good people who are choosing to do bad things that are going to make it through the cracks. And the women are no different. Let's be honest about this. Women are usually catty. I grew up in a time where women stepped on one another in order to get ahead. Now we're able to change that culture. Myself, I preach this all the time. If I'm a couple of steps above another woman and I'm coaching someone and I'm coaching a female and she ends up at my level, let's say she ends up passing me, good on her. That means I'm not stepping up my game enough, and I'm going to continue to support her even as she passes me. It didn't used to be that way, and many women still don't feel that way. So there are plenty of times that culture we were trying to change, that we were talking of. I can remember females who were just as bad to me as the men, if not worse. Now, does that correlate to sexual harassment? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe if she's in charge and she knows it's happening and she turns a blind eye, then that person's just as guilty as the person that's doing it. But are you going to see a female sexually harassing another female? Not likely. Or anyone for that matter. I don't know the statistics, but it's a numbers game, right? So if you have 100 men and one woman, well, obviously the statistics are going to be higher against the men just because of the numbers.
Right. Lisa, you make an amazing point. I think just generally speaking, bureaucracies are going to have that small percentage that, is lacking in morals and ethics and, doing the right thing. So it isn't just men doing this thing. And yeah, I also was in the Army during that very toxic period where it was just like you see a high-speed female, and by high speed, I mean, she's on top of her game. She's the best at her job. She's squared away. She's professional. If you see another squared away female, high speed, you might feel some type of way about it, like maybe jealous, and you're going to want to like either gossip about her or try to discredit her in some way, like by gossiping, like, oh yeah, I bet she's blowing Sergeant so-and-so. And that's not right either. And that doesn't help the culture. Those women are called pick-me's because they want men to pick them. But in general, I mean, no, we all need to step up to the plate and not turn a blind eye when we see something wrong. So, Lisa, when you mentioned how maybe like a female superior may or may not be seeing something going on, like sexually harassing, whether it be male to male or female to female, male to female, when I tried to confide into my platoon about what was going on, because I was raped at a party. And she just immediately assumed that maybe I just regretted it and I wanted to like take it back or whatever. But really, I was just going to my platoon to say, hey, I was raped a month ago and I really need to go to mental health. I do not feel mentally at my 100%. And, she called me some very degrading names. And as my superior, I was just, I lost respect for her and I felt very betrayed because she was also a woman who could have instead, spoken to me one-on-one and really gotten the feel for what I was trying to say and, share with the platoon instead of degrading me and calling me horrible, disgusting names, because that's just what women do. Some women are like that. They get off on, I think it's honestly just like a power thing, whether it's rape, assault, harassment, you just get off on knowing that you can implement this pain on someone or hurt their feelings or hurt their ego or their soul. Like just some people in whatever bureaucracy are just like energy thieves, and they're just like, oh, here's this female trying to, get help and reach out, but let me just step on her some more. But like Lisa mentioned, if you're a really good mentor and you're a great leader, you're gonna continue your path to success. And while you're on your way there, look behind you and see if anyone needs help, male or female. And if they do need help, then that's where you put your ego aside and you help out that human being. So yeah, as Lisa keeps mentioning throughout this like interview, it's definitely like a culture thing. So slowly we've been able to see a lot of women like stepping up to the plate and being just better women to each other. But just like any bureaucracy, you're just going to have that small percentage of people that are just going to do what they want to do.
That's interesting insight you bring up into leadership. And I think that's something common that we see across the board, and even leading out of the Vanessa Guillen story, which drove us all here to talk about this topic. Reported to the chain of command, of course, chain of command, even like Lisa mentioned when she was talking. If y'all don't understand how we hold formations in the military, it's a pretty serious thing when we do a head count. We know where everybody is. I mean, it's very key. We know where our Marines, our soldiers, whoever you're in charge of, if you are a platoon commander, platoon sergeant, a squad leader in the Corps, in the wing, wherever the hell you are, you know where your Marines are at. If you do a head count and you lie, your head needs to be on a spike. I'm sorry. That's just how this world is. That's accountability that we take as we go through boot and as we take our job serious, because our jobs aren't like Sid at 7-Eleven where if he has a bad day, the Slurpee machine broke. A bad day in the Marine Corps, in the infantry, in the wing, anywhere you're at, is a Marine, a sailor, a soldier, an airman, a coastie die. A life ends, and it could be more than one. That is a huge issue, and it happens everywhere. But here's the thing I see, and I'm going to wrap here soon. The biggest thing that I have an issue with, and before I get into this rant, I just want to say, Jess, thank you for sharing what you shared. Oh my God, that you just like.
Thank you for being so brave.
Yeah, like to come out and say that, it means a lot. I'm looking at the comments here. It's so powerful. It kind of just caused me to get fired up more. Now I want to hop on a plane and go to Fort Hood. But it's powerful you sharing that, seriously. Before Eric jumps onto an Eric rant, it's powerful. I mean, holy crap. And the fact that it went ignored. I mean, yeah. And there, folks, I mean, if you're watching, there's the honest to God reaction the news isn't going to show you. This is how it happens. It goes ignored. And her leadership was female. It doesn't matter male or female when it comes to leadership in the military. Just because they have shiny things on their arms or on their lapels, it doesn't mean that they're a leader. It's like being the title boss. It doesn't mean jack shit. The janitor could be a better leader than the CEO. I mean, we all know that. That's a great adage. But I mean, there's a lot of things going on here. But here's the problem I have with officers in general, broadband, not all officers, just like not all police, not all there's officers out there, but officers have a pretty free world where if they get in trouble, they don't get fired. They get reassigned. Now the enlisted, senior enlisted, they'll boot your ass. I know 35 years in, recon Marines were removed because a lieutenant colonel did something stupid and they messed up. They chopped the enlisted and kept the officer. And this story goes on and on and on. I mean, you could go find it, reassigned, enlisted gets the boot. Here is an officer that clearly ignored a service member being attacked and was like, and gave her attitude for it. Like, you maybe deserve, I mean, who uses that adage? Oh, you did. That just doesn't make sense to me. So, I mean, I don't have anything else to say on that matter. In closing, everybody kind of go around the circle here. TMR, we'll end with you. So we'll start with Lisa.
Oh, starting with me. I'm sorry.
We're starting with you. I'm ending with TMR. See, ladies first.
I do. I like those crayons. You got to break it down a little bit better for me.
The orange ones, right? Like we all like the orange flavor the best.
Yeah, I think it is a cultural issue. I think that we have made strides, and I think that we can continue to make strides. There are fantastic leaders in our military, and in the Marine Corps, we make leaders. We will make leaders of you. We will make a leader out of you, even if you're not one before you join. It is possible with the right coaching and training and teaching, and with the right leaders in your place, you can become a good leader. Leadership is learned. That is not something, there is an element that you could be born with and you can kind of take it from there, but leadership is ultimately learned because you have to learn how to deal with other individuals. And there's a huge difference between leadership and managing. And a lot of people, I'd say 75 or more % of people who think they're a leader actually fall into a manager category because they don't effectively know how to lead. So educate yourselves. I'll leave you guys with a great book to read, Brene Brown, Dare to Lead. Read that and implement it with whomever you're leading, even if it's just your kids. There's someone that's looking to you for leadership. And we, as a society, what we touched on earlier in the show, we need leadership. This country is craving leadership more than anything in our politics, in our schools, in our military, all around, in our homes, in our small communities, in our schools. We need better leaders, and it is up to us to step up to the plate, and it should come from the military. So maybe we need to tighten our ranks a little bit and look within ourselves and fix our own problems before we then go out to step out to lead others, because that's really ultimately what it boils down to.
Boom. Lisa, you win all the mic drop moments for the day, as usual. Lisa's always in here like, I got you, hold my beer, drop another one. Like you got golden grenades everywhere you go. Wow. Jess, we'll come to you for final comments. I mean, you already left us all basically in awe. And again, I want to thank you for sharing what you've shared today. I know it's probably extremely painful to share. I mean, and you kind of have a double background. You're also going through school right now to get a degree in criminal justice. So, I mean, obviously you're doing your part, but I mean, again, thank you so much for sharing that with us. I think that brings it to light to a lot of people. This isn't just something, we're just not on here ranting to rant. This is a live stream designed for people to see what you're reading. There's an actual human here. Here's another service woman who served her country and was attacked, and you heard the response. It wasn't a male leader, it was a female leader. So what's your thoughts in closing?
So closing thoughts, kind of like what Lisa says, in the Army, we have this thing called, well, there's a difference between a sergeant and a non-commissioned officer. And a sergeant is probably like, a shitbag or gets by or doesn't care and doesn't take care of their own. But a non-commissioned officer upholds all of the Army values, the non-commissioned officer creed, and lives by it. And so that's like a mentor, that's a leader. We're calling to action, not just by words, but just like live through your actions and your words. So I think we're calling for every entity to just step up to the plate and be honest, because I think all in all, like, the truth hurts, but the truth will set you free. So we're seeing just a lot of really shady behavior in a lot of these entities. So I'm just calling for everyone to just be honest, come forward. Like, someone knows something about that Vanessa Guillen case. And I mean, the witness protection program is a legitimate thing. And I'm just all about, finding justice and the truth coming to light. So that's what I want to leave y'all with.
I love that. TMR. You're on mute again.
I'm on mute. I'm just saying, yeah, I'm on mute again. Of course, figures. Yeah, because I'm just so traumatized from my Marine Corps experience with, like, speak when spoken to, But seriously, I mean, I made a post about Vanessa Guillen on my page and finding her and also treating our women counterparts with respect and equal respect. And once I did it, I've had people from both sides talking about, oh, everybody has the same rights. I don't know what you're talking about. And, some people coming by and saying, oh, this is great. But I just feel like, all in all, even with the mixed responses, that as leaders, as taught leaders, as Lisa was saying, and hearing responses and experiences from Jess, it says immediately that we need to do something now as a community of veterans, as a community of military, as a community of Americans, and band together for any cause that comes up in America, because a Latino issue, a Black issue, a LGBTQ issue, a patriotic issue, a civil rights issue. All those issues are American issues, and it does apply to us. So we all need to do what we can in the way we do it to make sure that everything is fixed if it's an American issue. So it is an American issue. So I feel like we're doing our part using social media and our platform to get the word out to people. But anybody who's listening out there, if you're by Fort Hood, Austin, anywhere close, go out there, band together, get a group of people, put some signs up, go look for Vanessa. If you're not the right person to do it, at least empower another person to do it. But just do your part in the way that you can, because we all can be a leader in our own right, and get the right person for the job and bring justice to find Vanessa Guillen. And we could also prevent another issue that could possibly arise just by being better humans and policing our own people. We need to do better.
Outstanding. I want to thank all three of you for joining me today on this very short notice, what I think is an outstanding interview. I want to thank TMR for being my wonderful co-host, even though he was on mute. We had to keep telling him to get off mute, but we love him anyways. And Lisa and Jess, thank you both so much for coming on and sharing your stories. I think you've made it very clear to people that what we're talking about and seeing, this isn't just something made up in the world. And this issue, I mean, unfortunately, is swept under the rug year after year, decade after decade, just like a lot of things in the military. This one is a big one. So I just want to thank you guys for joining me today on a Saturday. So thank you guys so much. And I'll see you all three of you very soon, hopefully on the show again. But go off, enjoy your Saturdays. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. So that is our show for today. I don't have a lot to say actually on the matter. I think we covered it on the show. These brave women that came on the show today, Lisa, as always, who will step up in a moment's notice when I need her, and Jess for just sharing her story. It's alarming, and I guess all that I could say is that I hope that if you're out there and you follow our page or TMR or any of the guests, I know all four of us have shared Vanessa out there on our social. So you guys go and do that. You can always go on Facebook. If you're watching on Facebook, go to Find Vanessa Guillen on Facebook. You can use the hashtag on social and find out a whole bunch of information that you can share, at least to get it out there. If you are, like TMR said, if you are in the Fort Hood area, see what you could do. Reach out. I know the family is holding peaceful protests and rallies around to try to bring attention and get the Army to talk about it. So we just encourage you to go do that and find, let's find Vanessa and get some closure to this, because this story needs to be addressed. Again, I want to thank our three guests for joining us today, the Marine rapper, Lisa Bodenburg, and of course, Jess Jaimes for joining us. As always, I'm Eric Mitchell. Be safe, be strong, be smart, and God bless America.
Let's get to the point.